Here is a paper that we obtained from the archives of the Zionist organization in New York City, and in it is the manuscript by Sir James A. Malcolm, who, on behalf of the British cabinet, negotiated the deal with the Zionists. And in here he says that all the Jews in England were against it. The Jews that had been here for years, the Sephardics, those that had Portuguese and Spanish and Dutch ancestors, who were monotheists and believed in that religious belief, while the Eastern European Jews were still running around in the heart of Asia. And then they came into Europe. But they had no more to do with them than trying to talk about a Christian race or a Christian religion or are the Christians united. So the same disunity exists amongst the Jews. And I'll show you in this same document that when they went to France to try and get the French government to back that Zionist adventure, there was only one Jew in France who was for it, that was Rothschild. And they did it because they were interested in the oil and the Suez Canal. You know why? You know why? Because if they don't, they're dead ducks. They come around and they tell you how much you must give. And if you don't, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Then none of their friends will have anything to do with them, and they start a smear campaign, and you've got to give. In New York City, in the Garment Center, there are 12 manufacturers in the building, and when the drive is on to sell Israel bombs, the United Jewish drive, they put a big scoreboard with the names of the firms, and opposite them, as you make the amount they put you down there, they put a gold star. And the buyers are told, when you come into that building to call on someone, and they haven't got a gold star, go up and tell them you won't buy from them until they have a gold star. Black. I don't know what else you can call it. Then what do they do? They tell you it's for humanitarian purposes, and they send maybe $8 billion to Israel, tax exempt, tax deductible. So if they hadn't sent that $8 billion to Israel, $7 billion of it would have gone into the United States Treasury as income tax. So what happens? That $7 billion deficit, that air pocket, the dumb Christians have to make up. They put a bigger tax on gas or bread or corporation tax. Somebody has to pay the housekeeping expenses to the government. So why do you let these people send their money over there to buy guns, to drive people out of their ancient homeland, and you say, oh, well, the poor Jews, they have no place to go, and they're persecuted all their life. They've never been persecuted for religion. And I wish I had 2 rows of rabbis here to challenge me. Never once in all history have they been persecuted for their religion. You know why the Jews were driven out of England? You know, they were. And they did the first, 1285, and they never came back until the Cromwell Revolution, which was financed by the Rothschilds. For 400 years, there wasn't a Jew. But you know why they were driven out of? Because the Christian faith and the Muslim faith is the sin to charge rent for the use of money. In other words, what we call interest is a sin. So the Jews had a monopoly in England. And they charged so much interest, and when the lords and dukes couldn't pay, they foreclosed. And they were creating so much trouble that the King of England finally made himself their partner, because when they came to foreclose, some of the dukes bumped off the money man. So the king finally said, and this is all in history, look up Harrison or Lord, the history of the Jews in England, 2 books you can find in your library, that when the king found out what the trouble was all about, he found out how much money they were making, he declared himself a 50% partner of the money lenders. They did the first. And for many years, 1/3 of the revenue of the British Treasury came from the 50% interest in money lending by the Jews. But it got worse and worse, so much worse, that they kept up this idea of bumping off the money lenders. And then the King of England said, well, I declare myself the heir of all the money lenders. If they're bumped off, you've got to pay me, I'm his sole heir. So that made so much trouble because the king had to go out and collect it with an army that he told the Jews, get the hell out of here. And he gave every Jew, there were 15,000 of them, they had to get out, and they went across to Ireland. And that's how Ireland got into the United Kingdom. When King Edward found out what they were doing, he said, well, if anybody takes that nice island over there, I'm going to take it for myself. And he sent Robert Southguard with a mercenary army and conquered Ireland. So, show me one time there is no case in all history that I know about where a Jew was persecuted in any country because he went home and put on those things that Harrison Freedman and said, smile Israel, instead of going into a church and saying, Our Father in heaven. Not one. It's always their impact on the political, social, or economic customs and traditions of the community in which they settle. Now, somebody back there wants to know. Yes, sir. Well, they say most of those things themselves. It was unnecessary for Benjamin Franklin. It was unnecessary for Benjamin Franklin to say it. Most of those things they say themselves. But now let me tell you, Benjamin Franklin observed and by hearsay understood what was happening in Europe when Russia in 920 was formed and gradually surrounded the Khazar kingdom and then absorbed them. Most of the well-to-do Khazars fled to Western Europe and brought with them the very things to which you object and I object and a lot of other people object. The customs, the habits, the instincts with which they were endowed. Now, Benjamin Franklin refers to them as Jews because that's the name that they went by. That's the name that they took. And the Christians, when they first heard that these people that were fleeing from Russia, who they were, that they had practiced this Talmudic faith, the Christians in Western Europe said, they must be the remnants of the lost 10 tribes. And Mr. Gross, the greatest historian amongst the Jews, says that. And he's probably the good authority on that subject as there is. So that when Benjamin Franklin came to Europe, let's say in the 18th century, he already saw the result of what these people had done after they left their homeland. And every word of it is gospel. Every word of it. And they themselves say it. I can give you a half a dozen books that they've written in which they say that. That when they have money, they become tyrants, and when they become defeated, they become ruthless. They say that. They're only barbarians. They're the descendants of Asiatic Mongols, and they will do anything to accomplish their purpose. What right did they have to do? What right did they have to take over Russia the way they did? The Tsar had abdicated 10 months before that, or 9 months before that. There was no need for them. They were going to have a constitutional monarchy, but they didn't want that. And so when the constitutional monarchy was to assemble in November, they mowed them all down and established the Soviet Union. There was no need for that, but they thought, now is the time. And if you were looking in the Encyclopedia Britannica, under the word Bolshevism, you will find the 5 layers there that Lenin put down for a successful revolution. And one of them is, wait for the right time, and then give them everything you've got. It will pay you to read that. You'll also find that Mr. Harold Blackstreet, who wrote the article for this Encyclopedia Britannica, states that the Jews conceived and created and cultivated the communist movement, and that their energy made them the spearhead of the movement. Harold Blackstreet wrote it, and knowing more about communism than he. And the Encyclopedia Britannica for 25 years has been printed. What more do you want? Anybody else? Well, I can't advocate that you understand that's criminal, or that might get the boys into trouble, but I can tell you this, that you can start what I call an endless thing. If you can get your parents to write, here's the statement Mr. Kennedy's office gave me this himself. Mr. Smith, who succeeded Mr. Kennedy, took over his office, within his office, he gave me this. For release to AM, that means morning papers, August 26th. He delivered it on the 26th. And it says here, Israel is here to stay. As Israel is here to stay, it is a national commitment. Special obligations on the Democratic Party. The White House must take the lead. American intervention. We will act promptly and decisively against any nation in the Middle East which attacks its neighbor. I propose that we make clear to both Israel and the Arab states our guarantee that we will act with whatever force and speed are necessary to halt any aggression by any nation. Well, do you call the return of people to their homeland aggression? Is Mr. Kennedy going to do that? Suppose 3 million Mexicans came into Texas and drove the 6 million Texans into the deserts of Arizona and New Mexico. Suppose these Mexicans were slipped in there on the Texans are disarmed, and one night they drove them all out of Texas, and they declared themselves the Republic of the Alamo. What would the United States say? Would we say it's aggression for these Texans to try to get their homes back from these Mexican thieves? Suppose the Negroes in Alabama were secretly armed by the Soviets, and overnight they rose up and drove all the whites into the swamps of Mississippi and Georgia and Florida. Drove them out completely, and they declared themselves the Republic of Ham or the Republic of something or other. Would we call it aggression that these people, the whites of Alabama, tried to go back to their homes? What would we think if the Soviet Union said, no, those Negroes now occupy them, let them there? Or if the Soviet Union said, no, those Mexicans are in Texas, they declared themselves a sovereign state, leave them there. You have plenty of room in Utah and Nevada. Settle them elsewhere. Would we